They said Lena Harper and Maya Delaney ran away. They said it was just a disappearance. A quiet town. 2 missing girls. No witnesses, no evidence, no reason to keep asking questions. But some stories don't stay buried. Not when the ground remembers. Not when the silence starts to speak. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Your support helps bring lost stories like this back into the light. The cracked riverbed stretched like a scar across Ashburn Hollow, dry, sun-bleached, and refusing to forget. Alex Reeves stood just beyond the caution tape, the early summer wind brushing strands of hair across her face. It had been 30 years, but this place hadn't changed. Not really. The sycamores still hunched like old men over the embankment. The quarry road still snaked along the tree line, and the town's silence still carried the weight of things unsaid. A uniformed officer paced nearby, speaking to someone into a radio clipped to his collar. Alex barely heard him. Her eyes were locked on the item at the center of the scene, half wrapped in brittle leaves and sun-baked dirt. A backpack. Denim. Faded. The zipper broken. She already knew what was inside. "Ma'am," a voice called. "This area's closed to non-essential personnel." Alex turned slowly, flashing the laminated ID she'd clipped to her jacket. Freelance journalist. Cold case contributor. Authorized. "I'm cleared," she said, voice level. "I called ahead. Officer Daniels told me to meet him here." The man nodded once, still skeptical. "Stay behind the tape, and don't touch anything." She wouldn't have dreamed of it. Alex stepped back a few feet and knelt, pulling a notebook from her bag. The air smelled like dry grass and old limestone. She flipped to a blank page, dated it, and wrote 2 words at the top. Lena Harper. It felt like writing over a grave. 30 years ago, Lena had been one of 2 girls who vanished from Ashburn Hollow within the span of a week. Lena Harper and Maya Delaney, 15 years old, inseparable. They'd gone out one summer night and never come back. The police had found no signs of foul play, no blood, no struggle, no witnesses. 1 week of searches, a month of posters. And then the narrative shifted. They probably ran off. They were troubled girls. You know how teenagers are. Then, silence. Alex was the 3rd one. The one who stayed behind. She hadn't said Lena's name out loud in years, not even to herself. But seeing it again, handwritten in faded purple ink on the inside lining of that backpack, had cracked something open. The local ranger who found it hadn't even known what he'd stumbled onto. Just some junk from a dry creek bed during the worst drought in a century. He'd turned it in like a good citizen. A week later, the name matched cold case files that no one had touched since the 90s. Now here she was, 30 years later, standing in a place that should have swallowed the past completely. But it hadn't. Not quite. "Hey," a familiar voice called out behind her. She turned. Ben Torres, former classmate, now a detective with Ashburn Hollow PD. He looked older, grayer at the temples, but his eyes were the same, perceptive and tired. "Didn't expect to see you back here," he said. Alex shrugged. "Didn't think I'd ever have a reason." Ben glanced at the tape, then the pack. "Crazy, right? 30 years. We barely even looked out here." "You looked," she said quietly. "You just didn't want to find anything." Ben flinched like she'd slapped him. "That's not fair," he said after a moment. "We were kids, scared. No one knew what happened. And the adults—" He trailed off. Alex didn't press. She knew the rest. The adults had wanted it buried. The sheriff had closed the case with a weak press statement. The school changed its schedule. The town moved on. And no one looked harder. Except her. Ben walked her back toward the road. "We'll process the backpack. I'll keep you looped in if we find anything. You said there were papers inside." He nodded. "Nothing legible. Just a few scraps. We'll test for DNA, but, well, it's been 30 years. Alex tucked her notebook away. Mind if I talk to the ranger who found it? He's off duty. Guy named Ryan Bell. Lives over on Cherry Creek Road, cabin near the bend. Said he was fishing when he spotted it. Alex raised an eyebrow. That area's restricted, isn't it? Ben smirked. Yeah, said he was scouting trout conditions. Alex didn't laugh. Later that evening, Alex drove the long way around town. Past the old general store, now boarded up. Past the gas station where they used to sneak soda and lemon candy. Past the high school. Same chipped bleachers. Same white paint flaking off the sign. She parked outside the motel on Hollow Bend. A squat, two-story place with flickering neon and 0 online reviews. It smelled faintly of pine cleaner and mildew. She liked it immediately. The clerk didn't ask why she was in town. Didn't recognize her either, which was a relief. 30 years was a long time. In her room, Alex sat at the small desk, flipped on the lamp, and opened her laptop. Her screensaver flickered. A half-written article titled, "The Forgotten Girls of Ashburn Hollow." She hadn't touched it in 2 years, not since the last anonymous email, not since the last lead fizzled out, not since she stopped believing she'd ever know the truth. But now she had a backpack, a place, a starting point. She opened a new document and typed the first line. They said Lena Harper and Maya Delaney ran away. But I never believed it. Because I was there. And I know what we saw the night before they disappeared. Alex leaned back in her chair. Somewhere outside, a coyote howled, low and sharp. She closed her eyes, and for a moment, she was 15 again. Standing under the old footbridge, holding a flashlight, listening to the wind move through the trees like it was whispering someone's name. The next morning, the fog sat low over Ashburn Hollow like a warning. Alex sipped black coffee from a motel styrofoam cup and stared out at the parking lot, where a single pickup idled quietly under a lamppost. The condensation on her window blurred the town beyond, just outlines and shadows. Ashburn had always looked like this in the morning, half asleep, half aware. She remembered the summer mornings when she, Lena, and Maya would bike to the old cemetery trail. They used to pretend it was haunted, not with ghosts, but with memories that didn't want to be remembered. Now she understood what that actually meant. Alex's first stop was Morning Brew, the only coffee shop in town that hadn't changed its logo since 1997. The same chipped chalkboard menu. The same threadbare couches in the back. A few older locals glanced up when she walked in, recognition flickering behind their eyes. She ordered a refill and took a seat by the window. She didn't need a guide. She knew who she'd see here. 10 minutes later, Aaron Caldwell walked in. Alex almost smiled. Almost. Aaron looked different. Her hair darker, wardrobe more practical. But the posture was the same. Shoulders a little too tight. Eyes a little too cautious. Aaron had been Maya's closest friend outside their trio, and the last person to see either girl before they vanished. And she was also one of the only people who never talked about it. Aaron spotted Alex, hesitated, then crossed the room slowly. "I heard you were back. I figured you did." Aaron didn't sit until Alex nodded at the opposite chair. She lowered herself into it like the past might still bite. "I saw your name on the cold case blog," Aaron said. "Didn't know you were still chasing this. Some things don't let go." They sipped coffee in silence for a moment. Finally, Alex said, "The backpack's real. It was hers. Found out by Dry Creek." Aaron's eyes flicked up. "Seriously?" Alex nodded. "Still has her name written inside. DNA's pending, but it's her. No doubt." Aaron sat back, arms crossed. "That place was dry back then, too. Drought hit hard in '94. But I don't remember them ever searching that far out." "They didn't," Alex said. "That's the problem." When Aaron didn't respond, Alex leaned forward. "You saw her, didn't you? The day before?" You told the police she came by your house. Aaron flinched. That was a long time ago. You told them she looked spooked, said she was going to tell someone something. I said a lot of things, Alex. I was scared. We all were. You said she was planning to go to the sheriff. Aaron's expression hardened. And maybe that was a mistake. Alex blinked. What do you mean? I mean she shouldn't have said anything. Aaron's voice was low, brittle. You don't get it. Back then, people were watching, not just kids, not just bullies, adults, teachers, cops. Some of them were part of it. Whatever Lena and Maya saw, whatever they found, it was too much, and they were too loud. Alex's hands curled into fists in her lap. You knew, she said. All these years, you knew they didn't run. I didn't know, Aaron snapped. I suspected. There's a difference. And the last time I asked too many questions, my dad got laid off and someone keyed our car. She stared into her coffee. This town is like an attic full of mold. If you poke around, it gets in your lungs. Alex stood. I'm not afraid of breathing anymore. Aaron didn't look up. Then maybe hold your breath. Outside, the fog was burning off slowly. Alex pulled her coat tighter and headed for the library. She needed town records, newspaper archives, and a list of faculty from 1994. Not the official one. The real one. The substitute teachers. The night shift janitors. The ones no one ever remembered but who always had keys. But first, she took a detour. Old Quarry Road hadn't changed. Still cracked pavement and leaning mailboxes. Still that faint smell of ash from a fire no one talked about. The Delaney house, Maya's place, stood like a ghost at the top of the hill. Windows boarded, grass overgrown, mail slot rusted shut. Alex stepped closer. There, carved faintly into the wood of the door frame, she saw something. Letters, shaky, almost childlike. A.R.M. Alex traced them with her gloved finger. Then she noticed something more. A sticker, faded and peeling. Property seized. County foreclosure. It had been placed years ago. But under it, someone had scrawled, "You forgot us." Alex didn't move for a long time. Then she turned away. Back at the motel, she opened her notebook and turned to a fresh page. People who stayed silent. Aaron Caldwell. Afraid, evasive, knows more Ben Torres. Cooperative, but holding back Sheriff Morton. Retired, avoided press. Find current address Vice Principal Lowry. Disciplinary coordinator, check records custodian, janitor staff. Unknown. Then she wrote one more name, slowly, deliberately. Me. Because Alex hadn't spoken up either. Not back then. She still remembered the last night she saw them. The flashlight, the whisper, the sound of someone else behind them on the trail. The look Lena gave her. The silent plea not to follow. And Alex hadn't. Not then. She wouldn't make the same mistake now. Summer, 1994. The last summer in Ashburn Hollow didn't feel like the end of anything. It felt endless, like the heat would never break, like the days would keep stretching forward, golden and full of dust. Alex was 15, and that July, her world was Lena and Maya. They were everything, her gravity, her compass, her mischief and courage and defiance. They didn't call themselves a trio. They didn't need to. They just were. They'd spent that day behind the elementary school, sitting on the rusted monkey bars and watching clouds crawl past. Lena was drawing in her notebook. Maya was chewing sunflower seeds, and Alex was watching the abandoned service shed across the yard. "Why do you keep looking over there?" Maya asked, kicking her feet. Alex shrugged. "Just thought I saw someone go inside yesterday." "No one uses that place anymore," Lena said without looking up. "It's condemned." "So why wasn't it locked?" That got Lena's attention. She closed the notebook, her expression sharpening. "Want to check it out?" she asked. Maya groaned. "Of course you do." The shed was half collapsed on one side, with ivy threading up the frame and a warped aluminum roof that moaned whenever the wind hit it right. The door hung crooked on its hinges. Inside, it was dark. Cooler than outside, smelled like rust, oil, and rotting paper. They stepped carefully. Maya stayed near the door. Lena went straight to the back, flashlight in hand, scanning shelves. Old yearbooks, she muttered. Broken projector, paint cans. Look, this one's labeled 91. Alex opened one of the boxes. Most of it was junk. Old tests, unmarked videotapes, a binder labeled counseling logs, restricted. What the hell is this? She murmured. Maya hovered in the doorway. Guys, this feels wrong. But Lena had already opened the binder. Inside, yellowed sheets, typewritten, many redacted with thick black lines, names abbreviated, session notes, behavioral concerns, and one phrase that repeated across multiple pages: withdrawn from program by family request, transferred off record, unfit for reintroduction. What does that mean? Alex asked. Lena's face had gone pale. These are students. They're not in the yearbooks. No, Lena said, flipping faster. And some of these, they were in our grade. I remember some of these initials. LS-EH. Maya looked like she wanted to run. Let's just go. It's old crap. Maybe it's fake. But Lena's hands were trembling. They erased them, she said quietly. Later that night, the three of them sat by the creek, the same place where the backpack would be found 3 decades later. But in 1994, the water still flowed. Cool, fast, full of frogs and fireflies. Lena held the notebook tight against her chest. I think someone at the school is doing this. Moving kids, quietly, especially ones who speak up. Alex said nothing. She wasn't sure what she believed. But Maya? Maya looked terrified. What if they're watching us now? She whispered. They are, Lena said simply. I saw someone following us last week, on the trail. He was wearing one of those school ID badges, but I'd never seen him before. Alex frowned. You sure? Positive. Maya shook her head. We should tell someone, the sheriff. Lena looked at her. You think they're not in on it? The next few days blurred. Lena stopped coming to hang out. She said she was documenting everything. Names, sightings, logs. She said she wanted to show her mom. Maya grew distant too. Jumpy. Kept saying she felt someone watching her through the windows at night. Alex didn't know what to do. Then came July 19th, the last night. They were supposed to meet at the footbridge after dark. Flashlights only. No phones. Lena said she found something else, something bigger. But only Maya showed up. She's not coming, Maya had said, breathing fast. She said if she's not there in 10 minutes, we have to leave, that she might already be gone. Alex remembered the fear then. Real fear. Not teen drama, not sleepover ghost stories. She said to remember what we found, Maya had whispered. And if something happens, we can't let them erase it. Alex wanted to wait. She did. But Maya had grabbed her hand, said they had to go, said it wasn't safe. They ran. And the next morning, both girls were gone. Alex sat on the motel bed in the present day, her notebook open in her lap. The memories flooded back like a reopened wound. She wrote one line across the page. We left too soon. The Ashburn Hollow Sheriff's Department hadn't changed in 30 years, except maybe for the beige walls looking even more faded and the vending machine in the corner finally out of order. Alex stood at the front desk, waiting as the clerk disappeared into the back. A dusty clock on the wall ticked with deliberate slowness. She tapped her pen against her notebook and scanned the bulletin board behind the desk. Petty theft alerts, 2 missing pet flyers, and a faded Community Watch Volunteers Wanted notice with no tear-off slips left. No mention of Lena, no mention of Maya. It was like they'd never existed. The door creaked open, and Detective Ben Torres appeared again, now in full uniform. He motioned her toward the back. "Still digging?" he asked, not unkindly. "You know I am," Alex said. "I want to see the full case files, Lena and Maya, not the press release version." Ben's face tightened. "You know those aren't public. They're 30 years old, Ben. You think the public's forgotten? I haven't." He didn't respond. "Let me guess," she said. "The files are incomplete. Half the statements are missing. There's nothing about the service shed, nothing about that binder Lena found." Ben looked away. "You tried to find that shed back then," Alex continued, "but it was empty by the time you got there." "I remember." "So do you." "I was 16, he said quietly. "You're not now." He led her to a small interview room and dropped a worn folder on the table. "That's all we have on file. I scanned it for you already." Alex opened the folder. Inside were 3 missing persons reports, 1 anonymous tip sheet, a brief log of search efforts, a typed summary from then-Sheriff Paul Morton, and a note in red pen. "Closed, presumed runaways." That was it. "No autopsy," Alex murmured. "No follow-ups. No physical evidence logged." Ben sat across from her. "Morton shut it down after 6 weeks, said there were no credible leads. He had one," Alex said, pulling a slip of paper from her own folder. A printed copy of a 911 transcript, dated July 18, 1994. A female voice, frantic. "They're taking them somewhere, under the school. I heard them. I don't know what to do." Lena's voice, Alex said. "Never included in the case file. How?" Ben looked stunned. "Where did you get that?" "Cold case archive. Someone digitized it years ago, only it wasn't referenced in the police report, not once." He was quiet a long time. "I found a second folder once," he said finally. "Years ago. Labeled restricted, staff access only, locked cabinet in evidence storage. I asked about it, got shut down." Alex leaned in. "Was it the same year? Same case?" He nodded. "Sheriff's seal, but no signature, and no file code. Do you know where it is now?" "No," he said, "but I know who might." Sheriff Paul Morton had retired in 2001. He lived in a double-wide trailer outside town, kept a dog, and didn't own a cell phone. Ben gave Alex the address reluctantly. "He's old, bitter, doesn't like visitors." "I'm not here to be liked." The trailer was surrounded by yellowing grass and a rusted swing set. A black lab barked once and then retreated under the porch. Alex knocked. The door opened a crack. Morton stared at her through the screen. "You one of them reporters?" "Number I used to live here." "That supposed to matter to me?" "Lena Harper," she said. "Maya Delaney." The screen door creaked open. Morton didn't move aside, but he let her see him. Older, stooped, face lined like dry bark. "I signed those reports 30 years ago," he said. "Case went cold. They ran. That's what I wrote." "They didn't run." Morton's lips pressed into a thin line. "You think I don't know that?" Alex felt her breath catch. "You knew?" "I knew we weren't supposed to look too hard. I knew the school board called me into a private meeting the day after the second girl vanished. Told me to drop it." "Why?" Morton's voice dropped. "There were donors involved, private ones, people who had reasons to keep things quiet. I was told it was better for the town if we moved on." Alex felt sick. "You buried them," she whispered. "No," he said quietly. "I just didn't dig." She took a step back. The sunlight flickered between clouds, lighting up the porch in pale gold. "You still have it, don't you?" she said. "The restricted folder, the one with no code." Morton looked at her long and hard. Then he turned, disappeared into the trailer. When he came back, he was holding a manila envelope, the seal yellowed and brittle. He handed it to her. "I should have done this years ago," he said. Back at the motel, Alex opened the envelope on the bed, heart thudding. Inside were a list of names, students, all marked transferred. One memo from the Greystone School Board requesting containment of behavioral deviance. A black and white photo of a girl, not Lena, not Maya, labeled only GS03, placement 1979, and at the bottom, a letter with initials, ER. Alex's hands shook as she read the closing line. They are not to be remembered. Memory invites attention. The old quarry roadhouse stood on the edge of the woods like it had been waiting to be found. Alex pulled up just past noon, dust rising behind her rental car as the tires crunched gravel. The place was barely standing, its roof caved in on one side, windows boarded, porch sagging with rot. If not for the faded brass plate still nailed to the mailbox, she wouldn't have known she was in the right place. M. Bell, Counseling Services. The name had come from a line in one of the documents Morton gave her. Session notes transcribed and filed by Bell M., 1979 to 1981. Non-faculty status. External consultant. Clearance full. Marjorie Bell, or just M. Bell, had appeared exactly once in the Greystone records. But the more Alex asked around, the more curious looks she got. Too many people remembered her, and yet no one wanted to talk. She didn't belong to the town, one older man at the post office had whispered. She showed up after dark and left before dawn, said another. She asked kids questions that had nothing to do with school. Now, Alex stood at what was left of her home. The front door had been padlocked, but someone had already cut it open. The lock lay rusted in the dirt like a discarded secret. Inside, the air was thick with mildew and dust. Her flashlight beam danced across water-stained wallpaper and cracked floorboards. Everything had the feel of a place that had been left in a hurry. Furniture still covered in plastic, books still on shelves, cups in the sink. But something was wrong. The house was too intact, not just abandoned, preserved, like someone had been here recently, keeping things just this side of decayed. Alex moved cautiously through the rooms, taking photos, scanning for anything with names. In the back hallway, she found a door marked private. No handle, just a hole where one used to be. She slid her crowbar from her bag. Behind the door was a staircase leading down. It smelled of damp earth and old fabric. Her flashlight flickered. She tapped it once. The basement was unfinished. A concrete floor, wooden beams, shelves along the wall. And in the back, tucked behind a drape of plastic sheeting, a file cabinet. She didn't hesitate. The drawers were locked, but not tight. A few strong yanks and the second drawer came loose. Inside were folders. Dozens. Unmarked except for initials, LH, MD, EL. NS Alex froze. These weren't general student files, they were counseling logs. She flipped one open. Subject, LH, July 1994. Refuses to recant statement regarding hallway surveillance. Claims to hear music from the chapel during off hours. Request made for quiet therapy, pending board approval. Notes initialed, MB. She flipped to another. Subject, MD. July 1994. Session interrupted when student became unresponsive. Described division of a girl in the wall. Likely projection. Suggest isolation for observation. Unfit for peer contact. Final note. Transferred July 20th, 1994. No transfer destination listed. Alex's hands trembled as she pulled out a thick envelope at the back of the drawer. Inside were cassette tapes labeled in careful handwriting. Session 03, EL. Session 07, MD. Session 12, LH. Final entry, Bell M. She pulled her recorder from her bag and popped in the first tape. The voice that filled the room was soft, female, deliberate. This is Session 12. Subject Lena Harper. Patient displays elevated anxiety, increased suspicion of staff surveillance. Repeats belief that student Maya Delaney is in danger. Student claims to have evidence. Tape recorder confiscated, binder destroyed, recommending immediate removal from peer population. Click. Alex switched tapes. Session 7. Subject Maya Delaney. Student reports seeing someone else in the chapel. Not a teacher, not a priest. Referred to as the girl behind the curtain. Vocal when distressed. Session ended prematurely due to light fixture falling from ceiling. Note: third incident of environmental disruption. Alex stopped the tape. She sat down hard on the floor. They hadn't just been watched. They'd been documented, controlled, silenced. And someone had made sure those records never left the basement. Until now. She didn't hear the footstep behind her until it was too late. The voice was quiet, male, and unfamiliar. "You're not supposed to be here." Alex turned slowly. A man stood at the bottom of the stairs. Late 50s, wearing coveralls. His eyes gleamed in the flashlight beam. "You're one of them," he said. "You were with the others." "I remember." Alex didn't move. "Who are you?" "I kept the place clean," he said. "Told me not to ask questions, just mop the floors, throw away what they told me to, but I never touched the tapes." He looked at her with something like regret. "I should have burned them." Alex stood, hands still on the recorder. "Why didn't you?" He hesitated. "They asked questions. They remembered things. That was the problem. They didn't forget." "And what about you?" she asked. "Did you?" He looked away. "I tried." By the time Alex got back to her motel, it was after sunset. The sky was bruised purple, and the recorder felt like it weighed 10 pounds in her satchel. She uploaded the tapes to a secure cloud server and backed them up twice. Then she wrote a name in her notebook. Marjorie Bell, former counselor, not faculty. Psychological evaluations off record. And under it, someone new, someone cleaned, someone is still watching. She didn't sleep that night, but she did start writing again. The first thing Alex did when she woke, after only 2 hours of dreamless, jagged sleep, was hit play on the final tape. The label on the cassette was simple: Final Entry. Bell, M. She sat cross-legged on the motel floor, her back to the door, laptop open beside her, phone recording the playback for backup. The tape crackled to life. "This is Counselor Marjorie Bell, June 12, 1995. If you're hearing this, I've either fled or failed. I've left the house. The materials are hidden in the basement, behind the session files. The rest have already been removed." Alex leaned closer. "I was hired to observe, not intervene. But something was wrong. The girls, Vivian, Emmeline, Lena, Maya, they didn't hallucinate. They saw something real, something in the walls, something older than the school itself. The board called it delusion. The priest called it possession. But I think it was memory. Raw memory. Echoes of what the school buried." Alex's breath caught. There was one more. She wasn't on the rolls. No file, no locker. The others called her the girl who doesn't blink. She never spoke. She only appeared in reflections, in glass and water. I believe she was the first. The tape popped, then hissed. Bell's voice returned, softer. They called her Hope later, as if naming her would contain her. But it didn't. She's still there, and she remembers everything. Click. Silence. Alex didn't move for a long time. Hope. A name that hadn't appeared in any file. A name that wasn't supposed to exist. Vivian Locke had mentioned her in the diary. Emmeline whispered about a third girl in chapel interviews. Maya spoke of the girl behind the curtain. Now Bell had confirmed it. Whoever, or whatever, Hope was, she hadn't left. And someone had worked very hard to keep her story unwritten. Alex stood and scanned the files again, heart thudding. She needed a survivor, someone who remembered more than scraps, someone who had been in the program and gotten out. She opened her laptop and ran a new search. Greystone Academy. Attendees, 1975 to 1995. Filter, withdrawn before graduation. Filter, Survived trauma, legal action, sealed records. One name popped up, Clara Rains, withdrawn 1981, case sealed, listed as transferred for psychological rehabilitation. Now residing at Silver Pine Assisted Living, 20 miles outside Ashburn Hollow. Alex was already grabbing her keys. Silver Pine was neat and quiet. The receptionist wore soft pink scrubs and greeted her with a hesitant smile. "Clara doesn't usually take visitors," the woman said. "But she asked for you?" Alex froze. "How?" "She saw your name on the intake form. Said she remembered it. Said you're one of the ones who didn't forget." Alex's chest tightened. "She really said that?" The nurse nodded and led her to a modest room at the end of a quiet hallway. Inside, sunlight filtered through pale curtains. The air smelled like lavender and disinfectant. Clara sat in a wooden rocker near the window. Her hair was silver, her eyes sunken but sharp. "You came," she said. Alex stepped inside. "You know who I am?" Clara smiled faintly. "You're the one digging up old bones, just like Vivian said someone would." They talked for an hour. Clara had been 14 when she was placed at Greystone in 1980. She lasted 4 months before her parents pulled her out, right after a breakdown no one could explain. "They told my mother I'd imagined it all," Clara said. "Said I was unstable. But I wasn't the only one." She stared at the window like it held another world. There was a room under the chapel, not the one they showed us, the real one. Stone walls, Moldavian, no light. That's where they took the loud ones, and the ones who saw her. "Hope?" Alex asked. Clara didn't blink. "That's what Vivian called her. I called her the wall girl. She never looked at you directly, just past you, like she could see your thoughts crawling behind your eyes." Alex pulled out a printed photo, the surveillance shot from the restricted file. The girl in the hallway, small, wide-eyed, unnamed. Clara paled. She didn't like being seen. That's when she got loud. Before she left, Clara reached into the drawer of her nightstand and pulled out a small music box. "I kept one thing. My roommate left it behind. Vivian said it kept the whispers calm." The music box was shaped like a chapel, tarnished silver. When Alex opened it, a lilting melody played. Slow, sad, haunting. The same tune from the end of the bell tape. Alex thanked her and stepped into the hall, the melody still echoing in her ears. Back at the motel, Alex uploaded the audio, tagged the files, and typed a new title for her growing article. "The Girl on the Tape. What Greystone Tried to Bury." But she wasn't just writing anymore. She was preparing to publish, because Clara had given her something even more valuable than memories. She'd given her a name no one had dared say out loud in 30 years. And now Alex had it. Alex hadn't driven up Harvest Lane in over 15 years. The houses here weren't haunted looking like the rest of Ashburn Hollow. They were clean, well-kept, freshly painted. But Alex had always found this neighborhood more unsettling than any broken chapel or basement archive, because this is where secrets smiled behind shutters, and where her mother still lived. The house looked the same. White porch, blue shutters, garden beds that hadn't changed since childhood. Alex stood on the front steps for a long time, one hand resting on the music box in her pocket. Then she knocked. The door opened faster than she expected. "Alex," her mother said, blinking like she wasn't sure this was real. "You're here." "I need to talk to you." Her mother stepped aside without a word. Inside, the house smelled like lemon cleaner and vanilla candles, like it had been recently scrubbed, like it was trying too hard to be normal. They sat in the living room, the same couch, the same clock ticking on the mantel. Alex didn't waste time. "Did you know what happened at Greystone?" Her mother froze. Her hands tightened on her tea mug. "I'm not here to fight," Alex added. "But I have to know." Her mother took a breath. set the cup down, then said softly, "Yes." Alex stared. "I knew," her mother said again. "Not everything, not at first, but I knew something was wrong. I heard rumors about the chapel, about therapy that wasn't really therapy." "Why didn't you say anything?" Her mother looked away. "Because I was afraid, and because—" "Because what?" Her mother met her eyes. "Because your father was on the school board." The world seemed to drop out from under her. Alex's father had died when she was 17. A heart attack. He'd been a teacher, a community organizer, a respected man. She'd never questioned his role at Greystone, just assumed it was administrative. "He served from 1987 until the school closed," her mother said. "He didn't talk about it. He didn't bring home files, but he got quieter, tired, and then, one night, he burned a box of papers in the backyard." "What was in them?" "I don't know," she said. "But he told me one thing before he died." Her voice trembled now. "He said, the girl wasn't supposed to be real, but she was. And now they'll come for us too." Alex's mind raced. "He meant Hope," she whispered. "The first girl, the one they erased." Her mother nodded. "I asked who she was. He said, she was a mirror. She showed us everything we wanted to ignore." Alex stood. Her hands were shaking now. "I have tapes, files, witnesses. I'm going to publish. People deserve to know." Her mother didn't try to stop her. "Then be careful. They'll still want it buried." "Who's they?" Her mother's face hardened. "I don't know." "But your father did. That's why he never told you." Later that night, back at the motel, Alex opened the music box again and let the melody play softly while she typed. They said Hope was a ghost. But ghosts don't leave physical evidence. Ghosts don't scratch names into walls or stare back from surveillance stills. Ghosts don't leave tapes with session logs and burn notices. She wasn't a ghost. She was the proof. And the punishment. She uploaded a teaser article to her private blog and set it to publish in 48 hours. Just enough time to make sure every backup was in place. Just enough time to reach the one person left in town she hadn't spoken to. Margaret Harker, the last Greystone faculty member who hadn't run, resigned, or vanished. Alex slid the notebook into her satchel. Tomorrow, she'd knock on Harker's door, and she wouldn't leave without answers. The cottage on Weller's Hill looked more like a storybook house than the last known address of someone connected to a decades-long institutional cover-up. Ivy curled around the porch columns. A wind chime swayed lazily in the breeze. The garden bloomed with care, and the front steps were swept clean. Alex had expected something colder, more defensive. But as she stood with her hand raised to knock, she felt the same tightness in her chest that she'd felt walking into the chapel basement. Because this was where the truth stopped hiding. Margaret Harker opened the door before Alex touched it. "You're late," she said. Margaret looked exactly like she had in the yearbook photo. Sharp gray eyes, a spine that didn't bend. Her white sweater was neatly pressed, and her hands were steady as she motioned Alex inside. "You've been asking questions," she said, not unkindly. "Yes, you've stirred up everything we buried. I think we both know it needed to be unearthed." Margaret led her to a small study lined with books and maps of the region. Greystone's property outlined in red marker. There were files here too, folders tucked neatly into labeled boxes. "You kept records?" Alex asked. "I kept what I could." They sat across from each other, the afternoon sun creeping across the table between them. "I need to know," Alex said. "Why? How? Who signed off on it?" Harker exhaled through her nose. "You think there's a single person to blame? You're wrong. There was a system, a culture. The board didn't see children. They saw problems, disruption, deviance, and hope." Margaret's face twisted. She looked suddenly terribly tired. "She wasn't on the roster. I was a new hire. They never told us about her. I didn't see her until my second year, and even then, it was always fleeting. A reflection, a whisper, a story told between students. Alex said nothing, just waited. She was there before I came, locked in the lower rooms, watched, studied, and when she disappeared, everything else started to fall apart. Alex pulled the photo from her bag, the blurred surveillance still of the unnamed girl. Margaret flinched. "She used to stand just out of reach," the older woman whispered, "like she didn't want to be seen, but couldn't help it. And the others, Vivian, Emmeline, Lena, they all saw her. They all remembered her, and that was the sin." "Remembering?" Alex asked. Margaret nodded. "They made a pact, you know. A silence pact. Vivian told me. They thought if they stopped speaking about her, maybe she'd go away. Or maybe they'd be safe." Alex's throat felt dry. "But it didn't work." "No." Margaret looked at her squarely. "Because Hope wasn't a ghost or a legend. She was a witness. And witnesses don't fade. They multiply." Margaret reached behind her and pulled a weathered envelope from her bookshelf. "Vivian gave this to me before she left," she said. "She told me not to open it unless someone came asking the right questions." Alex opened it carefully. Inside was a letter, handwritten, slanted. The same looping handwriting as the diary. "If someone's reading this, you've found what they buried. They'll deny it. They'll say it was a breakdown, mass hysteria. But it wasn't. We saw her. We heard her. We knew her name even when they didn't give her one. Hope was never what they called her. That was ours. And they hated us for keeping it. You don't have to believe in ghosts, just memory. Because memory is louder." Vivian Locke. Alex's hands trembled as she set the letter down. "They tried to forget her," she said. "And they almost succeeded," Margaret replied. "But you're here now." Alex looked up. "Will you help me? I'm publishing everything. But they'll try to discredit it. Say I made it up. I need someone who was there." "I'll sign whatever you need," Margaret said. "But don't count on the board folding. Some of them are still out there, still watching, still invested." "I don't care." "You should," she said softly. "Because the ones who remember, we carry her with us. And not all of us survive that weight." That night, back at her motel, Alex uploaded Margaret's letter. She added her statement, her signature, a scanned image of the photo, and the music box's recording. Then she clicked Publish Now and sent Hope's name out into the world. The blog post went live at 11:06 p.m. By midnight, the email alerts started. Subject: Urgent. Greystone Publish from boardlegal@morningtontrust.org. Cease dissemination of unauthorized materials. Alex ignored it. By 2 a.m., the post had been viewed over 4,300 times. By 4 a.m., local journalists were contacting her. A Cold Case podcast had already shared the link. Former students were commenting, sharing memories, photos, vague but chilling anecdotes. The silence was breaking. At 7:12 a.m., her phone buzzed with a text from Jeanette, the town records clerk. They broke in last night. Fire in the off-site archive facility. Box GS 794C is gone. Alex sat bolt upright in bed. Gone. All the originals. The surveillance photo. The redacted memo. The file on Hope. Everything she had found. Vanished in fire. She drove out to the site, a converted storage building just off County Route 19. The smell of scorched metal hung in the air. Yellow tape fluttered in the breeze. A local deputy stood guard, unspeaking. Jeanette met her near the gate. "They say it was electrical," she said, voice tight. "But I checked the access logs. Someone used a badge after midnight. The alarm never went off. That means—" "Internal," Alex said. Jeanette nodded grimly. They erased her. Again. Alex didn't go back to her motel. Instead, she drove to the only place left that hadn't been breached yet. The riverbed. Dry, cracked, and empty now. Like a wound, healing wrong. She walked the trail to the spot where Lena's backpack had been found. The air was still. The sun already harsh overhead. Someone had been here. The dirt was disturbed. Kneeling, Alex saw something partially buried. A burnt scrap of notebook paper. The edges curled and blackened, but one corner remained. 3 words in faded purple ink. She remembered me. Alex's throat clenched. She looked around. No movement, no sound, just wind and ash. Back in her car, she sat for a long time. She pulled out Vivian's letter, then Margaret's. Then she opened the photo of the unnamed girl, Hope, in the chapel hallway. She stared at it until the image blurred. And then she saw it. A hand, barely visible, reaching from a gap in the stone behind the girl. Too small to be adult, too misshapen to be a shadow. Someone had been with her, or behind her, watching, trapped, waiting. Her phone buzzed again. A blocked number, no voicemail, just a message. Some names were never meant to be remembered. Walk away. Alex took a screenshot and kept driving. She met Ben Torres outside the courthouse. He looked more tired than usual. Less like a detective, more like someone who'd been fighting ghosts and losing. I saw the fire, he said. They called it a wiring issue, but I don't buy it. Neither do I. He handed her a folder. This is all I could get before they locked the system. Internal staff memos, 1979 to 1985. Nothing concrete, but some interesting names. One keeps showing up. Alex flipped through. Her eyes caught it instantly. E. Rutherford, Program Director, Special Placement Oversight. There she was again. Eleanor Rutherford. The woman behind the silence. Alex had seen the initials before. On Bell's memo, on Vivian's sealed file, on the termination order in the sheriff's restricted folder. She's still on the trust board, Ben said. But no one sees her. Doesn't attend meetings. Doesn't return calls. She doesn't have to, Alex said. She already did her part. That night, Alex didn't sleep. She drafted a second post. They tried to burn her name. Inside, photos, notes, the burned letter, the image of the hand behind Hope, and a final sentence that rang like a hammer blow. You can burn a file. You can destroy a building, but you can't kill memory, not when it's already taken root. She scheduled the post. Midnight. Let them chase the ashes. But just before dawn, someone slipped something under her motel door. A photo, old, faded, of 3 girls, Lena, Maya, and a third. Small, blurred, pale. No name, no face. On the back, scrawled in red ink. She didn't run. She didn't speak. She's still here. The Rutherford estate sat atop a hill of red clay and silence. The driveway curved through tall iron gates, the kind that used to guard ideas like legacy and respectability. But Alex had stopped believing in either. She parked just outside the gate. No invitation, no escort, just answers owed. The house loomed ahead. White stone, black shutters, a kind of cold, symmetrical perfection. Alex walked up the path, her boots crunching on gravel. Her satchel hung heavy with files, photos, the music box, and Vivian's final letter. The door was unlocked. Of course it was. People like Eleanor Rutherford didn't expect to be hunted. They expected obedience, silence. But Alex had spent her life learning how to carry noise like a weapon. She found Rutherford in the study. Late 80s, silver hair pinned in a chignon. Eyes the color of steel dust. She looked up from a bound volume of architectural blueprints. Greystone's original layout. You made quite the mess, she said. Alex closed the door behind her. You made it first. Rutherford smiled faintly. Do sit down. I assume this isn't a social call. Alex stayed standing. I know who Hope was. No, you don't, Rutherford said, her voice soft as a scalpel. You know what they imagined, what they projected. A ghost, a myth, a scapegoat for their trauma. She was a child. She was an accident. Alex stepped forward. Accidents don't live in basements. Rutherford's eyes sharpened. She was placed, she said finally. Not enrolled, an off-roster asset. A failed initiative under donor discretion. What initiative? Adaptive silence therapy, emotional reset, behavioral blank slate modeling. Alex recoiled. You turned her into a test subject. She was meant to be erased, Ms. Reeves. That was her function. And in time, the others would forget her. Forget themselves. It was safer that way. Alex pulled the photo from her bag. The blurred image of Hope in the hallway. And the hand behind her. You failed. Rutherford looked at the photo. Just once. She wasn't supposed to survive. But she did, Alex said. Rutherford sat back. What is it you want? Your confession, your statement, and if not that, your silence, public and permanent. Because I'm not going to stop. The tapes are already in 3 locations. The posts are archived. The podcast episode drops next week. Even if you bury me, the story lives. You're very brave. I'm not, Alex said. I'm just tired of losing girls like Hope. Silence hung between them. Finally, Rutherford closed the blueprint book. They'll make a documentary, you know, a podcast, a Wikipedia page. People will cry, then forget. Maybe, Alex said. But I won't. A week later, Greystone's land was seized by the state. The Mornington Educational Trust disbanded under pressure. An investigation was launched. Alex testified. Margaret Harker did too. So did Ben and Jeanette. Clara Raines sent in her statement. Others followed. No one could find a death record for Hope. Because there had never been a life record either. But her name now lived in headlines, in footnotes, in truth. The old chapel wasn't demolished. It was converted, a memorial space, a truth archive, a place for people to listen. On the back wall, carved into a plaque beneath stained glass, in memory of the unnamed. She didn't run. She didn't forget. We remember. Alex stood there on a spring morning, the sun warming her shoulders. She opened the music box and let it play. The same slow, sad tune from the tapes. A hymn for the ones who were silenced. At her side stood Ruth Locke, Vivian's daughter. Behind them, a group of former students, community members, and a local news crew. They weren't here for spectacle. They were here because someone had told the truth, and someone else finally believed it. Later that night, Alex returned to her motel for the last time. She wrote one final entry. For Lena, for Maya, for Vivian and Emmeline, and for the girl no one named, but everyone saw. She wasn't just the silent one. She was the loudest memory we had. And now, finally, she has a voice. Her name is Hope. And we're still listening. She hit publish. And this time, no one came to stop her. Subscribe for more untold narratives, forgotten histories, and voices that were never meant to be heard.